like to begin with defining research, as the whole point of this unit is researching and how to research. Research, as I understand, is the systematic investigation into and the study of things in order to establish facts and reach new conclusions. Or in other words, using existing knowledge to discover new facts or certify old facts. Without even realizing it, we all engage in researching on a daily basis. Before going to that new cafe you have been meaning to go to, you would have already researched a bit about the cafe and how to get there. Before watching that movie, you would have already researched a bit about the plot and the actors or actresses within the movie. Although this research is quite basic, the scholarly research process is quite a detailed and structured process. Professional communicators are required to perform this process in order to formally research about their thesis or research question. So in saying that, the research question we have come up with is, what is the impact and effectiveness of gender stereotypical portrayals of females in all forms of advertising? The reason for choosing this question is because this is a very well discussed topic, and as students of the advertising major, we believe it is appropriate that we research this topic. Now, before we move on to some background information, I'd like to show a video of an ad we found from the 1950s.
You know how old I was when I got married? 17. My mother almost had a fit. You're just a baby, she said. Anyway, a year later, I had a real baby. This baby. I was scared stiff. Not just because I never had a baby before, but I had to prove something to my mother and my mother-in-law. I was going to be the world's best mother in lots of little ways. For instance, you know how I wash his diapers? Not with detergent. I use Irish Snow. Know why? Because Irish Snow has built-in fabric softener that gets diapers much softer than detergent. Mom, feel it.
Very, very soft.
Very nice. Mm-hmm.
Ivory Snow with built-in fabric softener washes diapers so much softer than detergents. Even a mother-in-law can feel the difference.
So, onto some background research about the impact and effectiveness of gender stereotypical portrayals of women. Since the 1950s, advertisements have always shown how women should act and appear within the society. Whether it be cleaning, cooking, or even being a certain body type, the world has been subjected to what an ideal woman may be. This has caused many issues, as not every female has the same body type or likes the same things, and therefore advertising generally plays out desirable stereotypes rather than real portrayals of women. According to Solly and Gersbard, there was a rise in the representation of women used as sex objects between 1964 and 1984. One study discovered that women were 3 times more likely to be illustrated in a sexually explicit manner. The rise in objectification of women in advertisements might to an extent be related to the elevated emphasis the US culture has placed on consumerism in the last 50 years, as suggested by Major and Helgson. The intention of producing advertisements in that way was to persuade the audience to shop and purchase the offered products and or services. The advertisements could capture the attention of the audience through sexual manners to create a desire for material possessions. The issue here is the fact that women were seen as nothing more than a spouse and as a homemaker. Researchers have reviewed 8 studies and found that fewer females were depicted as employed and were more likely to be seen within domestic settings, advertising products in the home. Adding on to that, women were also seen as submissive objects for men's pleasure, especially within advertisements from the 1950s to the 1980s. Advertisements frequently illustrated scans of body parts and portrayed women in lurid angles in order to sell undergarments, cologne, clothing, and cars, which were quite common on television as well as print ads. These stereotypical portrayals had an immense impact on the audience by not only fueling the desire for material possessions, but also by illustrating how society thinks women should specifically look and act. The way in which these advertisements were created allowed for women's bodies to become a spectacle for men to gaze upon. In spite of that, women also became spectators and consumers of their own image and objectification. This meant that not only men, but the women also gazed at the advertisements and were also sold on its stereotypical contents. However, the question is, were the stereotypical portrayals in the advertisements effective? To some extent, they worked. They worked by grabbing the attention of the audience and also giving women this idea that by purchasing the product, they will be the ideal woman that society has created and favors. Although men favor these representations due to their sexual curiosity, it has been known that female consumers have evaluated these ads as more offensive than other ads.
So normalization is another big issue that seems to pop up when we're talking about gender stereotypes amongst females. This term basically means the process of bringing something to a normal state. And according to genderads.com, normalization seems to establish the pathology of the body. So in other words, there seems to be a certain line between what is normal and what is abnormal. And when we're relating it to female gender stereotypes of females, we can see that they are portrayed to be skinny, attractive, and have body parts that are proportioned to help with sex appeal. However, in reality, this is really not the case. You know, you have females that come in all different shapes and sizes, and you know, dress all different kinds of ways. So it's not the reality of it all. But Zotos explains how media seems to portray females' bodies through the use of retro-sexist imagery. So retrosexism is basically femininity related to notions of dependency, attractiveness, and adherence to household tasks. So a lot of people criticize this type of advertising. However, Zotos goes on to explain how a research conducted by him shows quite a few people also feel these ads can actually be quite empowering for females all around. And I have an example here for some sexist kind of ad that you could see from both horizons.
We should park back there, babe.
Great idea. Hadn't thought of that. Let's just park back in our driveway. Or we could, I don't know, run it right up the gut. Someone's got to wear the pants in this family. You have pants with pants.
So as you can see, this ad shows both sides of the argument very well. So contemporarily, women are still being portrayed stereotypically, being associated with household products such as toiletries, beauty products, cleaning products, and also personal care products, which was found by Furnham and Polster. Further research also shows that the chance of women being portrayed within a home is approximately 3.5 times higher than men. This meant since the 1950s, not much has really changed. So the issue of gender stereotyping, especially for women, has been a well-discussed topic for over 40 years with the academic research in advertising. This impact of stereotypical portrayals of women in contemporary times was that it was just as harmful as they were back in the mid-1900s. The female stereotypes that were portrayed in advertisements influenced and reinforced the stereotypical views of society, which led to negative consequences for women. So extensive research showed the portrayals evoked concerns about the pressure that stereotypes had on women by highlighting the idealized versions of what a female is supposed to look and act. Basing off from the impacts, the effectiveness of advertisements were not as successful as it once was. As the report had stated, female consumers disapprove of how they are portrayed within the marketing realms. They progressively found advertisements ineffective as they were overall irritating and offensive, which led to the audience having a negative view towards not only just the ad, but the brand as a whole. So Whipple and Courtney stated that evidence indicated that women were far more aware of the stereotyping than men did, and that the use of non-sex stereotyped roles were highly effective in communicating its message to the audience. From here, it was concluded that the traditional portrayals of women showing them being dependent on men within the role of a typical housewife or as a sexual object were less effective than non-traditional portrayals. Non-traditional portrayals refer to depictions of women as career-oriented or involved in activities outside the home. Furthermore, non-traditional portrayals were more preferred by many segments of female markets for more products and service categories. So now we'll be moving on to methods of how we are going to conduct our research in order to find the answer for our research question. So one of our main methods will be focus groups. So a focus group is a gathering of deliberately selected people who participate in a planned discussion. Now we believe focus groups will be really good in finding out what impact stereotypes in advertising may have on individuals within the focus group. So we're going to have people of different ages. So we're going to have 10 females, 10 males, all between the ages of 20 to 55. We believe this is a good range to have millennials and other generations to be involved in this discussion. We're also going to have people of different races, walks of life, lifestyles, people who have different values, religious values as well. So we want to get as many different kinds of opinions as we can, just to see how advertising the stereotypes may impact and have an effect on them as an individual. So while we're doing the focus group, they will be shown, one part of the focus group will be where we show them a few ads that are known to be stereotypically, show female stereotypes, and we'll get their insight into it, how it makes them feel, and just get their opinion on that. And we also have a range of questions that we will be asking them throughout the whole, after we, show them the ads and whatnot. We'll be asking them questions like, what gender stereotypes for females do you see on advertisements? Also, do you buy products from companies that use gender stereotypes? And also we'll be asking them, do you compare yourself to the women you see in advertisements? This will be mainly aimed towards females, as obviously. So that's one of the methods that we will be using. Another method is by using surveys. So surveys are basically a traditional way of conducting research. Everyone knows how surveys work. So Mathers explains, while mentioning surveys, how they are particularly useful for non-experimental descriptive designs that seek to describe reality. So we'll be using a questionnaire format where we will have 50 hard copies. We'll be making a survey form ourselves. We'll have 50 hard copies and we'll distribute them throughout the campus, Western Sydney University campus, throughout our workplace, with our friends, family, and whoever else we believe that will be willing enough and will give us good insight into our research question. So part of the survey, we will have a demographic, we'll collect demographic information, so about age, about occupation and whatnot, and education, just to see the variety of people and who exactly we are getting our information from. And then we will go on to ask questions similar to our focus group questions. So survey questions will be short form and long form, but they will include questions such as, what impact do you believe these gender stereotypical ads have on you? Are they positive? Are they negative? Why? So just questions like this, and we have a bunch of other questions that we have, including about 20 questions in total, including demographic questions. And yeah, we just believe that this will be a good method.